At this time, I'll call our regularly scheduled meeting of the Harlingen City Commission, which has been duly posted, to order, and call upon Commissioner Mayor Pro Tem Mike Mesmar to lead us in an invocation.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to our meeting tonight. We're glad to have you here, and the first thing on the agenda is item 1, special recognition to the Rio Grande Valley Hispanic Genealogical Society, and I'd like to ask them to come forward. The representatives of the Rio Grande Valley Hispanic Genealogical Society come forward. We've got Sophia Olson, Mary Torres, Domingo Sanguiano, and Sylvia McGee. Welcome, ladies. Glad to have you here. This is a great story about our local community volunteers, what volunteers can do in and for our community, and I'm gonna read this story to you. I'm gonna tell the story to you about what these ladies and what others who have worked with them over the years have done over a long period of time. Not just a one-shot deal or one short commitment, but something that they committed themselves to over a many-year period. In 2008, the newly formed Hispanic Genealogical Society voted to transcribe the headstones in the Harlingen Cemetery. And members signed up as volunteers to photograph and transcribe the headstones. On June 7, 2008, each volunteer was assigned specific sections, and each member worked at his or her own pace and time, completed transcribing before July 23rd, 2008, just before Hurricane Dolly hit the valley and especially Harlingen. Keep Harlingen Beautiful and other volunteers helped restore most of the cemetery property. In early 2009, Boy Scout Thomas Kraft of Troop 1776 and Brian Ariola of Troop 206 completed their Eagle Scout projects by organizing a group of friends and fellow scouts and scouters. I was there to place permanent grid markers to help visitors locate their relatives. The grid markers are centered on each square and are identified by a letter and number which corresponds with the location of specific plots. The Society reviewed the project and decided to publish a book to assist citizens of Cameron County to locate their loved ones' headstones. And on November 3rd, 2018, the Texas State Genealogical Society presented a recognition plaque to the Rio Grande Valley Hispanic Genealogical Society, placing first place books published by a partner society for their hard work and contributing their time to develop an index book identifying headstones located in the Harlingen City Cemetery. The city cemetery is surrounded by a fence. The main gate and side gate on each street are open each morning and closed each evening and have been well maintained. Special thanks to volunteers Ophelia Olson, Belinda Longoria, Irene Silva, Minnie Zavala, Santos Canales, Annie Barrera, Tony Balboa, Mary Torres, Francis Salcedo, Susan Francis, Lydia Zapata, and Art Cohen, who's now passed. But we want to recognize this huge achievement that has been made by your local chapter and congratulate you on earning first place in the books published by a local society. So everybody give these folks a round. Say anything?
No, I think this will help help all the people in the community be able to locate them. So, they've been calling the city a lot, I've had bars, myself, and number needs to be out there. And so I got a little call
It's a big help, and thank you so much for this project, for all you've done for it. All right.
May I have a question?
One more, 1, 2, 3. Oh, wait, we have one more.
Item 2 is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of October 3rd, 2018. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Consent agenda items 3A through D. Is there a motion to approve, adopt the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 4, public hearing to consider an ordinance on first reading for the renewal of specific use permit issued to Tomas Diaz to allow a bar, lounge, and a light industry allied district located at 1510 North Commerce Street, bearing a legal description of Lot 1, Block 1, Casablanca subdivision.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. On June 7th, 2017, City Commission approved an SUP for a bar lounge to operate in the subject property, subject to 6 months renewal for parking, lot maintenance, upkeep, security cameras, personnel, and adequate lighting. Subsequently, on April 3rd, 2018, the certificate of occupancy was issued by the Building Inspections Department, and the applicant is renewing the SUP as required by ordinance. The bar operates Monday through Sunday from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. by the name of La Malquerida. The Building Inspections, Fire Prevention have reviewed the SUP application and reported no objection. The Police Department also reviewed the SUP and approved the renewal for the SUP. To present, the Planning Department has not received any phone calls in objection to the request. They can answer any questions. Staff recommends approval. So does the P&Z, with subject to the following, that the occupancy limits, that's where it's at, it's to 120 people. The parking lot upkeep and maintenance and adequate lighting throughout the establishment, continue provisions of security guard during peak hours of operation, continue provisions of 30-day video retention, surveillance system, continue compliance with Code of Ordinances, Chapter 22, Article 3, Sections 2254 to 2266, smoking regulations, and compliance with the requirements administered by the Planning and Zoning Commission, Building Inspections Department, Environmental, Health, Fire, and Police Departments.
So I think the last time this came up, I don't know this particular property, but are you all like following up to make sure that they do have the cameras and that's
Yes,
already been done?
Since that conversation, we have developed a different system where any SUP that gets approved for a duration of 6 months or longer, we provide a report to the police department, and then they schedule visits at their convenience. We don't have we don't have it said we're going to go on this particular day,
Right.
but they put it on their list and they have their task force and they will go and visit. And we're continuing to do that, yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
All right, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak for or against this specific use permit? Anyone? Hearing no one, I'll close the public hearing, go to item B, which is the consideration of possible action to approve an ordinance on first reading for the renewal of the specific use permit to allow bar lounge in the light industry district at the above described property. And I ask the city attorney to read the caption, please.
An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Harlingen to issue the renewal of the specific use permit to Tomas Diaz to allow a bar lounge in a light industry district located at 1510 North Commerce, bearing a legal description of Lot 1, Block 1, Casablanca subdivision, subject to occupancy limited to 120 people, parking lot upkeep, and maintenance and adequate lighting throughout establishment, continual provision of security guard during peak hours of operation, continual provision of 30-day video retention surveillance system, continual compliance code of ordinance, Chapter 22, Article 3, Sections 2254 to 2266, smoking regulations, compliance with requirements administered by the planning, building inspections, health, fire, and police departments prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy.
All right, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance on first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 5, public hearing to consider an ordinance on first reading for a specific use permit to allow an adult business microblading studio in a general retail GR district located at 1046 North 77 Sunshine Strip, bearing a legal description of Lot 15, Block 4, Crown Heights subdivision, applicant Maricela Mendiola. Rodrigo?
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant is requesting an SUP to allow for microblading services at a beauty salon. The beauty salon operates Tuesday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and Friday and Saturday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Based on the size of the suite, 2 parking spaces are required and provided in the common parking area. The police department, building inspections, and fire prevention have reviewed the SUP and they recommend approval of the SUP. The health department also reviewed it and reported no objection. Also, to present, the planning department has not received any calls in objection to the request. I can answer any questions.
All right. Any questions from the commission? I'll go to item A, which is public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak for or against the special use permit? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and go to item B, which is consideration of possible action to approve an ordinance on first reading for a specific use permit to allow an adult and business microblading studio in a general GR district of the above described property, and ask the city attorney to read the caption, please.
An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Harlingen to issue a specific use permit, Maricela Mendiola, to allow an adult business microblading studio in a general retail district located at 1046 North 77 Sunshine Strip, bearing a legal description of Lot 15, Block 4, Crown Heights subdivision, subject to restriping common parking area, obtaining and maintaining proper state permits, and complying with requirements administered by the planning, building inspections, environmental health, fire prevention, and police departments, providing for publication and ordaining other matters related to the foregoing.
All right, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance on first reading?
So moved.
Any
Second.
discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 6, public hearing to consider an ordinance on first reading to rezone from heavy industry HI district to light industry LI district for 17.74 acres out of Lot 1, Block 1, Texas Pipe Mending subdivision located at 5121 East Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant is requesting to rezone the subject property from heavy industrial to light industrial district to allow for a church on the property. There is an existing 5,691 square foot building on the subject property. The applicant is proposing to use for office suites. The future plans are, as mentioned above, to construct a church on the property. The surrounding properties are shown heavy industry to the east and light industry to the west. North and south of the subject property are located outside the city limits. The future land use plan shows this area as industrial use. The request is consistent with the future land use plan. To present, the Planning and Zoning Department has not received any objection from the surrounding property owners, and the P&Z and staff do recommend approval.
Is that property platted that way?
Yes.
But they own the whole, everything in blue? In the center?
Everything inside the yellow, everything in blue is inside the city limits, but everything in the yellow is the actual site.
So that's a separate property?
It's another track, yes.
Okay.
And where would their entrance be?
They have an existing entrance right here.
And what did that used to be?
That's where used to make the textile, remember when
That
they
was-
moved?
Or was that Dave Crane? I think Dave Crane was the
Well, it
last one.
Textile originally, but so that big huge building is next to it?
Right,
So originally, it was all part of one kind of complex.
probably. It got partitioned
I'm
out.
just wondering how we got that shape.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, is there gonna be a problem with the width to length ratio?
Right.
We've already cleared that?
Right, it's non-conforming. They're not asking to re-subdivide, they're just asking to build something
Okay.
else on it.
And then the next question is it a good idea to have the church between light industry and heavy industry?
That's a question for the people from the
I
church.
mean, we have a situation on Commerce Street, on South 77 that's occurred where we've allowed a school to go in. And now that they have 150 kids, that means there's 150 cars at 3 o'clock in the afternoon that are backed up on 77 that require a constable or 2 constables to help them make a left out of there. And I'm just wondering how compatible in the future,
Traffic, yeah.
having a church in that particular area is. I'm just asking the question.
The church proposal is a proposal this time. He really wants to use the existing building to better market it for office suites. And he needed the lower to be able to build a church because the church is allowed in light industrial. But it wasn't the anchor one, it was just something that had come about, which,
So is that a different process though, when they're gonna apply to actually build a church? Traffic requirements or the ins and outs?
he would still have to meet requirements for parking depending on the size of the church that they want to build, the type of assembly that they want to do. He would still, even if he wants to do that, he would still have to meet the requirements for parking and entrance.
So the existing building, if he was to partial it out into offices and suites,
Right.
would he be able to do that under heavy industrial? Or is he limited to industry only?
Yes.
So at this point, he has a building that if he's not going to use to build something, he can't occupy it. So by going to LI, he can now make it into office suites?
Correct.
Okay.
And who owns the property to the west? Is that part of the city industrial park? Where it says LI in the blue there, proposed
Yes, right.
HILI?
This
Yeah.
property right here is farmland right now. This is where we have a boat. They're gonna do boat sales or keep the boats there. The city public works offices are down here, and then the rest of it is more like the soccer fields and the
Okay.
detention ponds.
That's the soccer park. And on this side over here on the right, isn't there like a building that they were using for racing cars? Remote control racing cars. You see where all those buildings are there? I believe that's the valve company.
This one right
On
here?
No, to your right. That's the valve company. And as you come back the other way, I believe,
This one.
right in there with, I think, right next door to them was a little RC. They were doing remote
RCR,
control.
right, That's been removed.
But that's where we're talking about, that
Yes,
little area
That's the
there, right?
area, sir. That's the general area.
And that strip of land that has nothing on it, isn't that like a drainage ditch or an
Yes, sir,
easement for some sort of a,
That is correct.
okay.
What's the width of this property along Harrison?
Yeah, from there.
It would take a variance to subdivide it of some sort, wouldn't it, if we were trying to do that now?
Well, right now, they're just changing the.
Right, I know
signage.
that, but I mean, the length, the width is the issue.
Right.
We know it's in now, because it's either grandfathered or somebody gave it a,
That's correct. I don't have the width. Sir.
Okay, and so that's, I don't know the width, it looks narrow, but I don't know. can a church building be built on, however narrow that is?
Well, the entrance, the entrance goes and then it opens up into a parking area. And so the entrance is adequate enough to allow for two-way traffic and stuff. It is adequate enough. Even bigger semi-vehicles can go in and out.
Okay.
So it is adequate for that. And then they wouldn't be building in here, and if they would have to go into the property or subdivide to the adjoining properties. So that stretch will remain as such. Entry, egress.
So the back property, is that like an acre and a half?
I'm sorry, sir?
The back, the what's more squared off, is that an acre, 2 acres?
I don't have the dimensions, but the entire property is
Just approximate, is it
It's 17.7.
17 acres? Oh, that's not a problem.
It's a big chunk of
That's a
land.
big piece probably. Okay.
All right, well, let's go ahead and go to the public hearing, and item A is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak for or against this rezoning? Speak for or against the rezoning? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing.
Mayor, if I may, the frontage, Commissioner, is 345 feet.
Oh, okay.
It's a big, yeah.
It looks narrower than it
It
really
does look
is.
smaller.
Right, right.
Well, it's a big piece.
'Cause I'm looking at the aerial map, and it's
Pretty wide.
not only that, but I believe that's the property that had the RC on it. But it's probably actually on the adjacent property.
Does anybody want any more information before we take up the item?
Has the individual purchased the property already and it's pending, the closing of the sale is pending our approval, or they already own it?
They already own it, they're just rezoning it to market it different.
You know, I'm just gonna say, I have a issue with, we've got the whole thing zoned light industry and heavy industry out there because that's kind of what we want. And then, now, because somebody owns it and wants to put a church on it, we're gonna put a church out there.
I'd like to keep it.
I don't think it's just a good policy to change things in the middle of stuff so that to accommodate a use that doesn't seem to conform, maybe in my opinion, to everything else that's around it. I mean, if you ask me, when I looked at it, I would say that's not exactly a church zone. The P&Z approved it, though.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and take it up. Item B is the consideration possible action to approve an ordinance on first reading to rezone from heavy industry district to light industry district for 17.74 acres for the above described property. I'll ask the city attorney to read the caption.
An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Harlingen, rezoning from heavy industry district to light industry district for 17.74 acres out of Lot 1, Block 1, Texas Pipe Bending subdivision, located at 5129 East Harrison Avenue, providing for publication and ordaining other matters related to the foregoing.
Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Hearing no second, then the motion fails. All right, items.
Rigo, because the P&Z approved that, do we have to do any forfeits, anything, or?
No, because you're not voting against it, it's only
Okay.
if you're going against it. You just-
No. Okay.
You agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Item 7, public hearing to receive comments regarding the proposed voluntary annexation and to establish the initial zoning to general retail GR district for a 1 plus or minus acre tract of land, being the north 50 feet of a 2.766 acre tract of land out of Block 54, David and Stevenson subdivision, located on the west side of Briggs Coleman, north of Loop 499. Applicant is John W. Drennan, care of the Troy Investment company number 7.
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant is proposing to subdivide the subject property into a four-lot commercial subdivision under the name Storage Depot Subdivision. The applicant is proposing an expansion of their existing storage units. Part of the proposed subdivision is 2.7 acres, is currently inside the city limits. You hear everything in red. And the developer, it's inside the city limits, with the 1 acre is located outside the city limits. The proposed subdivision will have frontage on the Loop 499 in Briggs Coleman Road. The developer will be responsible for all infrastructure provisions, including street development, street lights, water, wastewater services, storm sewer, and other requirements as specified under the subdivision regulations. Water and wastewater disposal for the subdivision is provided through Harlingen Waterworks. The developer has requested general retail district zoning for the subject property. The request zoning is generally consistent with the future land use plan component of the City of Harlingen Comprehensive Plan. The subject annexation will require 3 public hearings and 2 readings of the ordinance to annex the property. The above timeline, we described the above timeline for it. The P&Z and staff recommends approval. I can answer any questions.
All right, is there, I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to make comments regarding the proposed voluntary annexation? Is there anyone who would like to make comments regarding the proposed voluntary annexation?
My name's Steve Gano.
Okay, if you would, you'll need to come to the podium and state your name and residence address, please.
My name's Steve Gano. I'm partner and general counsel in Troy Investment, company number 7. I live in Houston, but I work here in the Rio Grande Valley, and we're the applicant for the annexation. And I'm just here to answer any questions that y'all may have. We bought that property to expand our existing storage depot, which is right next door to it. And it turned out there's a 50-foot strip across the property that lays just outside the city limits. And we want to get it into the city limits with the rest of our property so we can go ahead with the project. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is there anyone else like to make comments regarding this voluntary annexation? All right, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. And so there's no action on item 7. Right. Item 8, public hearing to consider an ordinance on first reading to rezone from not designated N district to residential single-family R1 district for 3.12 acres out of Block 103, 2.94 acres out of Block 118, and 8.79 acres out of Block 119, Harlingen Land and Water Company subdivision, 0.5 acres out of Block 23, Briggs and Coleman subdivision, Survey 49, and Lot 1, Block 1, Galvez subdivision, rezone from not designated N district to residential multifamily M2 district for 3.79 acres out of Block 62, David and Stevenson subdivision, and 13.98 acres out of Block 119, Harlingen Land and Water Company subdivision, rezone from not designated N district to general retail GR district for 10.8 acres out of Block 23, 6.2 acres out of Block 24, 3.73 acres out of Block 25, 3.30 acres out of Block 26, 3.35 acres out of Blocks 26 and 27, 8.12 acres out of Block 27, and 4.3 acres out of Block 28. Briggs and Coleman subdivision, Survey 49, 13.11 acres out of Block 58 and 6.67 acres out of Block 59. David and Stevenson subdivision and 12.91 acres out of Block 121. Harlingen Land and Water Company subdivision and rezone not designated district to light industry LI district for 9.83 acres out of Block 19. Cunningham subdivision, all properties located generally between Expressway 77 and 25th Street and North Phoenix Avenue.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a city-initiated rezoning of non-designated districts. The city-initiated rezoning is consistent with the goals of the Harlingen Comprehensive Master Plan. The subject properties proposed for residential single-family R1 are mostly developed with single-family residential use or are vacant. The properties proposed for multifamily district are developed with multifamily use, a church, or a single-family resident in use. The properties proposed for general retail are vacant and consistent with the general retail district zoning pattern along Loop 499. The properties proposed for light industrial are vacant. However, it is consistent with the light industrial zoning pattern along the Expressway 77. The surrounding properties for the area, this one, along 25th Street proposed for residential, R1, are zone residential. Zone residential, R1 district to the north, multifamily to the south, planned development to the east, and general retail to the west. For the area along Montezuma Road, proposed for residential, R1 district, the surrounding zonings are planned development and non-designated to the north, general retail to the south, planned development district to the west. For the areas along the New Combs Road proposal for residential multifamily 2, the surrounding zonings are multifamily in all directions. The area along the Vincent Avenue proposed for residential multifamily 2, the surrounding zones are non-designated to the north, single family to the south, light industrial to the east, and general retail to the west. For the areas proposed for general retail, the surrounding zonings are non-designated and public development to the north, residential R1 district, and residential multifamily M2 to the south, family district and general retail to the east. General retail district are also to the west. The surrounding zonings for the property proposed for light industrial are general retail to the north and east, light industrial to the south, and non-designated to the west. The future land use plan shows the properties proposed for residential use R1 as mixed use. The request is generally consistent with the future land use plan and existing and surrounding land use as is being used now. The proposed properties for multifamily 2 are shown as medium-density residential. That request is also generally consistent with the future land use plan. The properties that are proposed for general retail are shown in the future land use plan as mixed use. The request is consistent with the future land use plan. The properties proposed for light industrial are shown as industrial on the future land use plan. The request is consistent with the future land use plan as well. Planning and zoning and staff recommend approval. And I have individual ones, and I can answer any questions.
Can you go back to what's labeled as attachment 3, continued, the one where we've got where, just click back. It's like, whoa. It says 25th Street and FM 507 on that same road. Help me get located. We've got general retail all around that, and we're gonna
And so we have,
go to R1.
we have R1 here.
That's R1, okay.
This is R1, so then it would be consistent with the houses that are there. Now there's
Okay.
just single-family homes there. And they have some-
And that map is, you have true north on there, so that map is properly oriented.
That is correct. This one, there just seems to be a lot of cut up, so I have a lot of sections, but
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and go to the public hearing, item A, public hearing, and ask if there's anybody who would like to speak for or against these rezonings that are proposed by the city. Is there anyone who'd like to speak for or against the rezoning? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Go to item B, which is consideration of possible action to approve an ordinance on first reading to rezone all of the above mentioned properties to the different designation zones described above, and ask the city attorney to read the caption, please.
An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Harlingen, rezoning from Heavy Industry District to Light Industry District for 3.12 acres out of Block 103, 2.94 acres out of Block 118, and 8.79 acres out of Block 119, Harlingen Land and Water Company subdivision, half acres out of Block 23, Briggs and Coleman subdivision, Survey 49, and Lot 1, Block 1, Glaves subdivision, rezone from not designated district to residential multifamily district for 3.79 acres out of Block 62, David and Stevenson subdivision, and 13.98 acres out of Block 119, Harlingen Land and Water Company subdivision, rezone from not designated district to general retail district for 10.8 acres out of Block 23, 6.21 acres out of Block 24, 3.73 acres out of Block 25, 3.3 acres out of Block 26, 3.35 acres out of Block 26, Blocks 26 and 27, 8.12 acres out of Block 27, and 4.3 acres out of Block 28, Briggs and Coleman subdivision, Survey 49, 13.11 acres out of Block 58, and 6.67 acres out of Block 59, David and Stevenson subdivision, and 12.91 acres out of Block 121, Harlingen Land and Water Company subdivision, and rezone from not designated district to light industry district for 9.83 acres out of Block 19 Cunningham subdivision, all properties generally located between Expressway 77 and 25th Street, north of Phoenix Avenue, providing for publication and ordaining other matters related to the foregoing.
Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance on first reading?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Item 9, public hearing and presentation regarding the fiscal year 17-18 consolidated annual performance and evaluation report. Tammy?
Good evening. I'm going to try to see if I can work it. We have to come before the commission for a public hearing to report on our accomplishments, our goals, our objectives that we said we were going to do with the one-year action plan and report it in our paper. This report will go to HUD. It's not an approval, it's just we have to submit it to them and HUD will approve it whether or not we've met our accomplishments. I've provided a funding summary for over the last many years. We were very fortunate in 2018, as you can see for this new funding year, to get an increase in funding that took us up to about where we were in 2011. At the end of last year, we had unexpended funds of $720,210.55. And then when you add in our entitlement for the year, we received $59,120.53 and revolving loan funds that's generated from the existing home loans that we have out. And we expended $438,262.73. So as of October 1 this year, we have an unexpended balance of $1.1 million that we will expend in the next coming year. A breakdown of the expenditures shows the categories in which we expended the funds for this year. The majority were with the home program, with the affordable housing, and the administration. Street improvements, you may have noticed, are underway on Buchanan. They're doing the sidewalks that should be completed approximately the second week in January, which will report those accomplishments next year. Victor Pool improvements, we were able to put in the new filters in the pumps, and we have just a few, about $20,000 in unexpended funds that we're going to use to put the ADA access in the pool, and that we're going to bid that out shortly. Clearance and demolition, we partnered with the Texas National Guard and the Code Enforcement Department to pay for the dumping fees associated with a total of 24 unsafe structures on 16 properties. We have 3 applicants that were approved, and you recently approved their contracts to reconstruct their homes. The home was designed by TSTC. The structures are currently being demolished, and they should be finished in the spring. Although we didn't expend a lot of funds last year because of the fact that we didn't have staff, we've partnered with Habitat for Humanity, and they're actually doing the construction inspections for us. So we're really delighted to be able to move forward with that. We have a lot of people that are interested in the program. We funded a Boys and Girls Club for $60,000, and they were able to serve 661 youth with our funds. Doesn't mean that that's the only number that they served. That's the only ones that they could count, that they had the proper documentation to submit to us. As with Amigos de Valle, they had anticipated serving 7 individuals. They would exceed that and serve 12 with the $8,000 that we provided them this year. Family Crisis Center, of course, you know, is our domestic shelter. and we were able to serve 121 abused children through the shelter and expended $11,953. CASA, we were able to provide them with $20,000, and they were to serve 92 children. That's just in the Harlingen area during this report year. So in total, we expended $99,953 for 4 public service agencies, and we're able to leverage that with about $1.6 million based on what they've brought to administer their programs also. Through the home program, down payment and closing cost assistance, this is one of the homes that we were able to help a homeowner purchase. They go to a local lender in the community and they get the loan, and then we provide them with down payment and closing cost assistance, and that's a deferred loan that is forgivable as long as they continue to reside in the home. This is another home that was for sale that was purchased by an eligible home buyer. And Bamboo, and you can see that the sales price was $95,000. They got a $68,000 loan from a local lender. We gave them $25,000. They came in with $2,000, and then there was also a seller's credit. So then the funds come back to the community if they fail to reside. Through the year, we expended $332,869 in home funds. That was to provide 2 homes that were constructed through CDCB that are now available for rent. And also, we had 10 first-time home buyers. So we purchased 10 existing homes, either newly constructed or already existing in the community with the funding. At the end of the year, the funding balances that will be expended, primarily the majority, hopefully, within this program year, a lot of the Housing Rehab Treasury, we've already encumbered about $200,000 of that, and now that we're working with Habitat, we'll be able to move forward with a lot of the applications. And that is it. I can answer any questions if you have any whatsoever.
All right. Does anyone would like to make a comment on the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report?
Good evening, Mayor, City Commissioners. My name is Dora Martinez. I'm the Executive Director of CASA. We were one of the recipients of CDBG funding. I just wanted to share some of the accomplishments that we were able to achieve with this funding. As Tammy stated, 92 children were served. That's 43 cases, and we did that with 25 volunteers and 1 staff member. Some of the outcomes that we achieved was 6 children were returned to their parent after they completed services. 21 children were given custody to a relative. 3 children were adopted. 4 children aged out of the foster care system, and 5 of the children, their case was dismissed. So that was a total of 20 children in 39 cases. One Harlingen case where CASA was able to make a difference involved 3 children who were removed due to physical abuse in the home. CASA did not agree with keeping the children in foster care after we were able to find out that there were relatives willing to care for these children. The CASA volunteer went out to the home, assessed the 2 different families that were willing to care for these children, made a recommendation to the judge that these children should be sent home with family, and the judge followed that CASA volunteer's recommendation. So this is just one example of what CASA is able to do and make a difference. So on behalf of all the children that we serve in Harlingen, thank you for your support.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody have any questions there? Any other comments on the caper?
I just want to say, Amigos de Valle, I sit on that board and have for a while. We received that money. This year, we actually went out. I got to witness the elderly, they get these meals. It cost us about $6 per day per person. And so this $8,000 was leveraged, and we delivered $17,000 worth of meals. And I just tell you, when you walk into these homes, these are elderly people who cannot, they're not mobile very much. And so it's really it's very well used and appreciated. And thank you, Tammy, for considering Amigos de Valle.
All right. Anybody else? I think what our community development department does with these funds is really remarkable, and I appreciate the work of our CDBG board as well for the guidance that they give, and really, if you look at what this department does year in, year out to improve our community, it's an amazing thing, and very proud of the work that the city does through this department. So thank you very much. So the next item then is item 10, which is a discussion of possible action on options regarding the operation of Tony Butler Golf Course. I think some people are here that want to speak, may want to hear this. I, for one, would actually like to table this item because I don't really feel prepared yet to discuss it or to hear the presentation. But I would, if people want to talk, but that's what I would propose that we do, unless there's some objection by those of you who have come to talk about it. I think it might be good for us to gather a little more information. At least I'd like to see a little more information before we have the presentation.
Okay, motion to table.
Okay, there's a motion to table.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, the item is tabled, and we'll bring it back at the next meeting, if we're, assuming we're ready at that time. Okay, item 11 is consideration possible action on selecting the HEB Tennis Center Pro Shop or Hugh Ramsey Nature Park Welcome Center as priority and use combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation series 2001 funding.
Yes, Mayor, City Commissioners, this item here is to request your all's, what do you call it, the selection of these two projects. We presented these projects to the Park Advisory Board, and they selected both of them as priority projects. And so, in the presentation, I'll show you the HEB Tennis Pro Shop. We've talked about this for a few years now. And so, right here, we had a engineer help us with the design. And so the square footage of the structure right now is a little bit over 2,000 square feet. And I think we can reduce it just to get it within budget. And so, my recommendation is that we reduce it under 2,000. About 1995, the architect has given us an estimated cost of construction of $250 per square foot, which comes out to $498. And the porch, we have a porch that's 12 feet by the width, which is comes out to $61,560 for a total cost of construction of $560,310. And then we have engineering fees and architectural fees, subsurface testing, and material testing for a total cost of $622,841. And so the next project that we got is the Hugh Ramsey Nature Park Welcome Center. This one as well we've been talking about for a few years, and it's also in our comprehensive master plan and in our Parks and Rec master plan as well. But here we wanted to build or propose the Welcome Center. And the Welcome Center here on the left is a picture of what's in Edinburgh, and they use this small little building. And so the Audubon Society and the other volunteer groups have offered to man the building for us, be able to offer information about the park, about the wetlands. If you all recall, about 2 or 3 years ago, we renovated the park and we added more area to the wetlands, and we lined them, and so we've made several improvements. We also improved the parking lot as well, and so those are the two projects that we got. I don't have any cost because we don't know as far as the square footage what we want to do there at the Nature Center. There's other information that we don't have available to us. My recommendation, or staff's recommendation, is to go with the Tennis Center Pro Shop. There we do have a lot of data. The services are already there. We got water, sewer, and electricity. And so we would be replacing the mobile building that we currently have right now as a Pro Shop. And so whatever direction y'all give us, we'll focus on that and hire an engineer or architect to proceed as
I
y'all
mean, do you
wish.
have the performance of the tennis center? I mean, like as far as how many people are using it, the income it brought, you know, membership, income is providing?
The revenue that we collect is not a lot of money. We have the.
But how much is it?
The daily use, we have here, for last year, we had 9,786 for daily entry. And so that's 9,700 players that have used it, because it's a dollar a day. And then we have.
That's for the whole year, or?
That's for the whole year, yes, sir.
Okay.
And then so we have annual memberships, quarterly memberships, which totals 12,931 to the city. If you all recall, we have an agreement with the Tennis Pro where we share the membership fee at $75.25.
So you're asking for $500,000 for $20,000 revenue?
Well, the other thing that this brings, and I don't have those numbers, is the tournament that we bring down.
Oh, I understand that, but it's still.
The use used to be a lot greater. There used to be a pro shop there, and you know, when I was in high school, there was a pro shop there, and there was a lot of more activity than there is now. And probably 15 to 20 years ago, they tore down the old pro shop, and they put a portable building there with the expectation that we would just have this rented portable building for a very short period of time until we replaced the pro shop. And the pro shop has never been replaced, and that has a big bearing on the reason why the usage is not very high. So, you know, we have the HEB Tennis Center, and these funds were identified, I think, back in, was it 2001? 2001. I mean, it's been a while. And so we have the HEB Tennis Center that has their name on it, and we have the courts, but, I mean, getting a drink of water is a problem. So until we facilitate the use of the park by having restrooms and water and a pro shop, it's kind of like having the Tony Butler Golf Course without a pro shop.
And I agree with you, but I think we can do that without spending $500,000.
Well, when I first got elected, this is one of the first things that I talked to Dan about, because one of the pet peeves I have is that we tend to always work on what's the latest and the greatest, and we forget about the things that we were going to do but have put off for a long, long time. And the tennis center is one of those. At one time, there was a committee that was formed that was going to try to raise some money, and that committee, for whatever reason, I think they secured some commitments, but the follow-through wasn't there, so the pro shop was never completed.
And as part of that effort, HEB gave some money to the city, if I'm correct,
Yes, sir.
to improve the tennis courts.
Right.
Because we were going to build the tennis center. And so that never materialized. So we fast forward to today. This is a project that's been in the books, something we've looked at for a very long time. We do have some funds from the 2001 bond issuance that can be used for park improvements. It's just over $650,000, somewhere in that area. So Javier and I have been talking, and we thought, well, let's bring both these projects to the commission, have you gentlemen prioritize which one we should focus on so we can utilize those funds, and we can get going on and building the project. We are recommending this one because we do have the land, the infrastructure is available, the water, sewer, electricity, all is available already. I think it'll facilitate this project. I think we can probably expedite it and get this project done in a timely fashion.
And then, I think our parks as a whole, I mean, there's a lot of need. I get it.
There's a lot of needs.
It's $500,000.
It is. Now, right now, they're working out of a trailer, and Commissioner Yuhorn is
And I'm not
right.
saying not to have them stay in a trailer, but I just think that we have to find a more cost-effective way to
Well-
kind of come up with something. But I
Well, if you-
don't agree with spending that much money to,
What if you
And I
give,
understand that, but
in one.
if you give us the opportunity, Commissioner, what we could do is possibly value engineer the size of the building and scale it back somewhat, and bring the cost down. Now, we haven't really looked at that yet.
that's another one of my pet peeves, is that we value engineer some things to the point where we don't have a very nice facility. We've got a beautiful natatorium in this town. We've got a beautiful pro shop at the golf course. We've got, one of the things that's missing is that if you go to a community our size, if you go to Brownsville or McAllen or other places, they have a very, very nice tennis pro shop at their tennis courts. That facilitates, right now, if you want to get out of the sun, I guess you could go to your car or walk over to the park, but there's no shade, there's no porch, there's no place to go in and, sit in the air conditioning. So, and that used to be there. It wasn't a huge facility, but that used to be there. And so as part of, none of these things that the Parks Department does makes money. We don't have a single park or a pool or anything else that turns a profit. So I'd rather see us.
And they're not supposed to.
Right, they're not supposed to.
And they're not supposed to.
Right, that's the point, is they're not supposed to. So, I think that there's probably an opportunity, if we were to spend this money, that HEB would see that we were upgrading that, and they might come in and help us with the courts.
Right.
So,
We should get that answered first, huh?
well, we need this anyway. I mean, this was supposed to have been done either 15 or 20 years ago.
Back in 2009, Commissioner?
2009,
Yeah, it was-
not 9 years ago.
Can I ask a question? Is your objection the 250 per square foot?
No, I'm just saying it's I'm looking at, the usage of it.
No,
The membership, and I understand, if you put $500,000 into it, are you gonna grow it to where it's not supposed to make money, I get that.
Right, and
But
that's
what I look
where I
at is
come
the Parks and Rec as a whole. I mean, you can pick out almost, whether it's the golf course or the swimming pools or the trails. When you take that big chunk of money, you're gonna take from somewhere else. I would rather just disperse a little bit what we can to all programs, and instead of just taking one big chunk and then we don't have any money for the next, how many years?
Well, on the flip side of that, we have the.
I'm sorry, but that's my question, I guess. If we spend that $500,000, is that gonna tie us where we can't do anything else for anywhere else for the next 5 years, 4 years,
Well, but-
10 years?
But those funds are earmarked for.
Park improvements.
Because they
Right.
were,
And so
because they were
if
so,
we take that $500,000 and put it to
they have to be used for a
Right.
park purpose,
for a
yeah.
park purpose, but by taking that $500,000, are we neglecting to put money anywhere else in any of the other facilities?
What I would like to see us do is in the past, we have done things like that where we, spend $50,000, 10 different places, and when we're through doing that, you really can't tell that we've done much. But we have what's the half-cent sales tax board,
The 4B.
the 4B, that's gonna still have like probably $800,000 or $900,000 a year, and rather than parse that up into little bitty amounts, we could do a project like this every year for the next, foreseeable future, if we would just sort of stick to our guns and dedicate ourselves to doing something that's nice like this, that the community can be proud of. That's my point is that if we have something that's nice, there'll be tournaments, there'll be people that use it, there's lots of.
So here's another question. Is it, and I use an example, whether, let's say, compared it to another, is it not operational? Is there sections of that tennis that's not operational? Or, like you said, is the tennis courts needing repair, or?
Yeah,
No, right now, they're playable. The tennis courts are
So
playable.
it's not hindering from somebody coming playing There's no safety issues, there's no.
No.
You have bathrooms, you have all the facilities.
But the bathrooms, there are no bathrooms.
Oh, no bathrooms, okay. So, so that's my question. I mean, as opposed to like an auditorium, if the pumps aren't working, you gotta get them fixed, right? To operate.
Well,
It's a-
I'm sorry, Commissioner, go ahead.
It's a question of, if you have that facility there, you had parents that would drop their junior high kids off after school and they would play tennis for 2 or 3 hours because there was a place to go inside, there was a place to get a drink, there was a place to get a bathroom. Now that doesn't happen anymore because, we got maybe a bench, but there's no bathroom there and there's just water.
And
May
the
I-
school district does not have tennis courts?
They
Or-
do, and let me make another point, is that I think that we would be able to attract more tournaments. Speaking with the tennis association, there's some tournaments that we lose because we don't have the facilities.
But are they going to the school district? Are they still having tournaments here?
They're going to
Or
Harlingen
not?
Country Club, they're going to Brownsville, other locations to play those
And
tournaments.
I will say this also, that, we've done the all-inclusive playgrounds. So we've spent money on improving our playgrounds. We're about to take off on phase 1 of the Destination Park, a very unique park in our city. We have different events around our city throughout the year, the Blues on the Hill at McKelvey Park, at different parks. And what we're trying to do is appeal to a variety of people and users to come into our city. And I think one of the things that will complement what we've been doing and building on is the addition of a professional pro shop tennis center. Because that is another area that I think we need to focus on, that I think we can attract more people to our community, in tournaments and otherwise. We have trails, we've been expanding our trails.
And do you know the number? I mean, do you have a number? Do you
An estimated number? No,
Do you
sir.
have an estimated number what you'd attract? If you had 5 tournaments?
Okay.
Well, hang on just a minute. Let's let the commission finish. Do you have any other,
May I?
Well, my
Yeah,
thing
all right.
is,
I think-
this is what I don't like. I'm sorry, I'll let you speak.
You haven't allowed me to speak.
Go ahead.
I mean, you keep stepping on me,
Okay.
okay? When we look at the parks, I don't look at the parks as increasing revenue, increasing usage. I look at it as an amenity for our city. People move to our city because we have things to offer. I've been a commissioner for 6 years, and in those 6 years, I keep looking back at what prior commissions have started and did not finish. A good example is what he's talking about with this pro shop. I think it's important that now we have an opportunity to finish one more. And so if we look at it that way and not as, is this going to bring more tournaments? Is this going to do this? I think you're looking at it as a business plan rather than as an amenity. I mean, you put a pool in your backyard. How many times was it used? How much did it cost you to run the pump? How much chlorine did you dump in it? But you do it because it's an amenity to your house. And I think we need to look at this a little different. That's all I'm saying.
Well, but we also have to be responsible.
Correct.
On how we spend that money.
That is very
Okay, that's
correct.
how I'm not looking at it as a business plan, I'm looking at, are we being responsible and not taking into consideration all the parks and recs?
Well-
And that was one of my questions. If you take $500,000 and put it into this thing without coming and saying, this is what it's gonna be, net effect. It's like telling me, if we have a call on something, we don't have the data to back it up. I like to see data. You're asking for $500,000, come and say, you know what, in our best guesstimation, you can't be exact about it, but tell me, maybe we attract 3 tournaments, 4 tournaments, get information, come with numbers, right?
okay, all right, well, that's fair, that's fair. If Commissioner Uribe would like to get some more information, we can get more information. We can get a look at, let's get some photographs of some of the other tennis centers around and see what they have. Let's do some comparison of what we've got and do some projections on what potential usage would be. I wouldn't be opposed to waiting and getting that. I would point out that this is the Parks Advisory Committee did make this recommendation to us. The folks that we appoint to the board have met and studied this issue for us, and they've recommended one of 3 projects to put on the priority list, or 3 projects. the Burning Center, Welcome Center, this project, the tennis center, and also the kayak thing. Now, I think we had somebody from the tennis community want to get up and make the case for this thing. I think that would be appropriate.
Actually, I just have a few minutes to talk. My name is Colleen Kimbriel, and I only have a few minutes to talk is because I'm on my way to a tennis match tonight.
Okay, just tell us who you are and what your address is.
1621 Fairfield Court here in Harlingen. I live right by Pendleton Park. My name is Colleen, again. My husband's here. Eva's here from HADA, the Tennis Association for Harlingen. Just a couple of quick points. It has been going on for quite some time. We're ready. We do have tournaments that they don't collect a fee from that are sponsored by the USTA that are 3-0 level, 3-5 level, 4-0 level, ladies, men's, mixed. We also have things like Andy Roddick had a sponsored kids tournament this summer. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is during that tournament, there wasn't anywhere for the kids to go to get out of the heat. They had it in the summertime when school wasn't in session. Hot, you all know how hot it is. We didn't have a way to cool these children's bodies down when they started having trouble with the heat. We didn't have any ice to offer them. They could go inside to temporarily get out of the heat, but it wasn't enough to cool their bodies quickly. That's concerning. I'm a parent. My kids, like Tudor was talking about, used to hang out at the tennis center in the afternoons. They would go in for a lesson. I would pick them up after their lesson. It was just a common occurrence. School, tennis, home, homework, bed. It was a routine. I really am going to be late for my match. One other thing I wanted to mention, tennis brings in professional tennis players from all over the world to Harlingen because of the Futures Tournament. We had young men from Kazakhstan. We had young men from Great Britain, Spain, Australia, France, Bolivia, Jamaica. They come with trainers and physios and nutritionists, and they spend money in Harlingen, and they get hotel rooms, and they eat here. So tennis is not a little sport for those of you that may be new to tennis. Tennis is worldwide. We do need to make a good impression with our tennis center, and I believe it would bring in more revenue for the city, and it would just be a really nice presentation for them to come to our beautiful tennis courts here in Harlingen at Pendleton, and we don't have anywhere for them to take a shower after their match when it's 105 degrees outside. Anyway, I really do have to go. There may be some other folks that want to speak,
All right.
but
Thank you.
I'm going to be late for my thing. Thank you.
Okay.
Evening, everyone. Tom Kimbrell, work for my wife here. Some of the metrics that Commissioner Uhiga brought up, I think are very important. And what are we receiving back on? And there's several ways that we're receiving something back. Number one is what my wife and Mr. Uhlhorn were talking about, is the children. The children in the community that want to play tennis. I didn't play tennis. I played football and basketball and all that stuff, and I've got all the x-rays to prove it. My boys played tennis, both of them. And it is a community of young people that is not there anymore. That community is gone because you can't go to a school after school hours. You can't play tennis on the courts, even if you're on the tennis team, at a school after hours. So you've got to have somewhere to go. So that's where everyone went. The Futures Tournament, the finals are held at the country club, but all of the preliminaries are held there at that tennis court. We have already spent how much money on the courts? The improvements to the courts?
Back in 2009?
Yes, sir. I would imagine it would be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we've already spent and didn't finish.
It's like $979,000, so just under $1 million. The improvements out.
Yeah, the overall
So we've spent $1 million, and we need $500,000 to finish the project, and we're not doing it. So what is it like? You're trying to get a real-world feeling of what it's like right now, and that's good. The square footage of of this stage here is approximately what the portable building represents, at least the public part of it. The last time I was there was no restrooms. They were out, none. So you have to walk 300 meters through the park over to another one, which for my dad, who I wanted to bring out there with me, it's not always an option at 87. You do have liability. I'm not sure everyone knows about this case, but the ramp, the ADA ramp to the front of the building, a woman fell on it and is either, she's in some stage of litigation, you may be able to help me with that. Yeah. She's coming after you. Because
I'm not confirming, or
Yeah.
I have no knowledge of what you're talking about.
Because we spent a little bit of money to build the ramp out of plywood and 2x4s, the ramp is unstable. So now you do have that. So really what I understood in it, please correct me if I'm wrong, is we were brought a decision tonight of apples or oranges, not whether or not we were going to go pick. The cost, how we get to that exorbitant amount of money for 2,000 square feet is the requirements, the engineering requirements for a government building as opposed to a regular building. So whether you put a 2,000 square foot building at the tennis center or a 1,500 square foot building at the Birthing Center or a 1,500 square foot building out at the trails, you're still going to end up with numbers like that. Doesn't matter because of the safety requirements, the ADA requirements, all of the construction requirements are the same. It's not going to matter. It's apples or oranges.
Okay, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to wrap it up.
The main thing that I was trying to say is that there is a lot of people that come here from all over the valley. These teams that we're playing tonight are Brownsville, McAllen. They come from all over here. When they come here, they have to eat. They do spend money. And when those tennis tournament comes in, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that are in town all day long. All day long. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody?
Maybe take a vote.
We can if you want to. Go ahead. One more person. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Good evening. Rodolfo Montero. I'm 2717 Lotus Street. I am a resident of Harlingen, and I've been here for about 10 years. This is my home. The reason I chose the city is because of the amenities. I've played tennis all my life. Those are the best courts that we have in the valley. Okay, the best lighting is here in Harlingen, in the valley. When I came here, it was a beautiful place with a nice pro shop. A year later, it got torn down because they built the courts. Very nice, the best courts in the valley. But we don't have pro shop. It's been 10 years. This is the first place I've been that has a tennis court and it does not have a pro shop. It's been 10 years. One of the things that I love about the city, my kids grew up here, 3 years old. I know. They play soccer. One of the nicest soccer fields that you guys have built. I'm sure that didn't cost $100,000. It cost over $500 plus. There's tennis. There's a basketball court. There's a baseball stadium. It's huge. Right now we don't have a professional sport, right? What we do, we have tennis. It's the only professional sport that we have here. People, like I said, all over the world, they come here to play in Harlingen. There are about 50 cities in the United States for futures tournaments. Harlingen is one of those. It's a yearly tournament. I know the mayor goes and he does a presentation with the winner usually. I know the city is engaged, but if you don't know the sport, then you probably don't know anything about it. Just like soccer, you want to play soccer, basketball, you play basketball, baseball, you play baseball, you have all these fields. It's wonderful. The city's great. Now it's the turn for tennis to just bring it up. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Well,
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to take a vote.
Okay, well, before you take that vote.
well, I think somebody's have to make a motion first.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to vote for approval of the pro shop at the HEB tennis courts.
I want to make a point because I think.
Hang on. Well, you'll get to discuss it. There's a second.
I'll make it vote verbally, second.
Second. Okay, so now
I want to make
there's
the point because you brought up the all-inclusive playgrounds. We went out with the school district and formed a partnership with not only private monies, fundraising, and the school district. That's how we got to that number. We didn't go all in ourselves, okay? You brought up the soccer fields. The soccer fields, the topsoils, terrible. People breaking their ankles, talk about liability. We need to do the whole topsoil of the soccer fields, okay? I asked the question about safety. So I would prefer to get more information and be more responsible to see how we can come up with the money. I'm not telling you don't need the facility. I would like to, because creatively, if we put our minds together and put thought to it, I know we can come up and lessen the cost of it, burden, or we can share costs with either the school district or some other way. I'm not telling you don't need the facility. I don't think we have the money to put $500,000 into it right now without taking away from the Parks and Rec as a whole.
Is there any
You're
other
gonna come with
discussion?
the golf course.
Any other discussion? I would like to just point out that the staff has, and some of us have reached out to some of, the support of charitable contributions, potential charitable contributions. They have not come, those have not been successful. We did try some. I know the staff has tried some of that. Just hasn't been successful on this project. We've been successful on other projects, but we weren't successful on this project.
Can I just clarify something? Because the way you're saying it sounds a little different than, I think, the reality of it, okay? The 4B Corporation receives a little over $1 million annually. And the goal of the 4B is quality of life. And that's a revenue stream. Versus what we're talking about here was a bond that was issued in 2001 that we received the money from, and we're holding it. And so that money it can only be used for one thing, and it's not a replenishment fund. We have the $500,000 that we can spend on this one project, but it's not like we're going to be missing something because we still have the 4B they just finished doing the 25th Street Trail. There's other things they've done. They're working on supplying us funds for phase 1 of the destination park. So I think saying it the way you're saying, you're making it sound like we're going to use this money up and we're never going to be able to replenish that money, but it is being replenished. I think back in 2001, they had foresight and floated a bond for it. And all we're doing now is taking that money and putting it to what it was intentionally used for.
It's intended for Parks and Rec.
For Parks and Rec.
And quality of life.
Quality of life.
Right. And I'm saying there's other projects that have just as much meaning, like I mentioned the soccer field and liability and everything
I agree
else.
with you about the
And
soccer fields.
And when I talked
that
about
much-
those
that much
projects,
soil.
and that was exactly what I was referring to,
Right.
was the soccer field.
And I'd like to see the 4B not spend any money for 2 years and fix the soccer fields with $2 million.
Amen.
And then the next thing we use the money for is something else. But what I don't like to see us do is fritter it away a little bit here and there. We have the opportunity to make some pretty big impacts with that money. And I'd like to see this make a big impact. And I can probably, there can be some people contacted that could help us prevent from having to value engineer this project. If we need $100,000, we could probably raise $100,000 to
And
get
that's what I was
this.
asking to do. How can you lessen the burden?
And I agree with you.
Well, we're not gonna lessen the burden, but we might enhance the project.
Right. Without cutting.
All right.
I do hear you. I do hear you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. All right, thank you. I'm told we need to pass item 12 for further consideration. Item 13, are there some, any board appointments?
Yes. I'd like to appoint, I've got the note here somewhere, Bethany Simon to the Keep Harlingen Beautiful Board.
Any other board appointments?
Yeah, to Convention and Visitors Bureau, Lorenzo Hernandez.
Any other? Is there a motion to approve board appointments?
So moved. So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign, motion carries. Item 14 is an executive session. Items A pursuant to Chapter 551, Sections 551.071, 551.071, and 551.072 of the Government Code regarding commercial financial information from a business prospect with which the city is conducting economic development negotiations or to discuss or deliberate financial or other incentives with the business prospect known as project development and seek legal advice from the city attorney. No?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Mayor.
And B,
I'm shaking my head at
pursuant to
someone else.
Section 551.071, Texas Government Code to consult the city attorney regarding fireman pension. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, there'll be no action on these items when we return, but we will be meeting with our attorney. Okay, we're out of executive session at 7:30, and now go to the final item, which is item 15, citizen communication.
We have a lady by the name of Dora Martinez.
Okay, Ms. Martinez?
Her
All right.
topic was, let's see, consolidated performance.
Well, I think she spoke.
I think she spoke.
Right.
She spoke on the,
Right.
on the cap. on the cable.
She's from Casa.
Yeah, she was okay, Casa. Okay, then that concludes our meeting. We are adjourned. Thank you.